I'm. We're. Everyone here in the house, we're like all real sorry about what happened to Dr. King. He stiffened. You're very kind to say so, Sunshine, but there's no need to be sorry. There's not? She looked confused. How come? 'Cause you didn't kill him. Of course not, but, sighs, there's lots of us brothers think the man was a sellout. Dr. King? A sellout? Satisfied when Sunshine's jaw dropped. He loved to fuck with white people, especially the ones who believed their hearts were full of good intentions. He turned and left without another word. The neighborhood was shabby. Glass glittering on the sidewalks, houses in need of paint, black bruises on the street where cars had leaked their vital fluids. In the shadows between houses, there were still gray slag heaps of unmelted snow. In April, surviving his first Detroit winter was not something Willie was going to forget anytime soon. One day he was sitting in buttery sunshine in Palmer Park, reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, watching swans glide across the pond, marveling at the palette of the trees, the bloody reds, the juicy oranges, the richest colors he'd ever seen. The next morning, he awoke to a blizzard, the first of his life, a storm that had come howling down out of Canada in the night and dumped a foot of snow in the city. This neighborhood, the shabbiness of it, reminded Willie of something he picked up from a Chicago brother named Clifford Jenks, who shared a cell with him at Parchman Farm in Mississippi back in '61 during Snick's jail no bail phase. Unlike the other Freedom Riders, Clifford and Willie weren't big on singing or scripture. They spent most of that long night talking about sports and girls. They were still wet from the hosing they'd been given, shivering from the chill breath of the fans the guards had trained on them. What Clifford said was, "Must be some kind of unwritten law that all stadiums is in shitty neighborhoods. Look at my hometown. Comiskey Park's on the south side, in a black ghetto. Look at Yankee Stadium, South Bronx, a Puerto Rican ghetto. And look at Detroit, Tiger Stadium, in a white ghetto. Which is the worst kind of ghetto there is." Clifford Jenks was something. A man who could make you laugh inside a cage in Parchman Farm. As Willie joined the river of fans flowing toward the ballpark, he felt the familiar tingling. He'd always loved crowds. Their anonymity, their electricity, their animal warmth. This mostly white crowd was in high spirits, like they hadn't heard the news about Martin Luther King, or didn't care. For the past week, there'd been riots in Washington, D.C., San Francisco, and dozens of cities in between, but Detroit had remained almost eerily quiet. Just one death, 2 cops wounded, a few student walkouts and assembly line shutdowns. Nothing like last summer, when a routine police raid on an illegal after-hours liquor house set the city off, a week of burning and looting and shooting that Willie and a lot of other people had spent the past 9 months trying to forget. And now, just after Willie's riot nightmares had finally stopped, Martin Luther King Jr. gets himself killed by a white man in Memphis. At least, everyone said it was a white man did it. Almost a week after the shooting, they still hadn't found the gunman, and Willie was convinced they never would. He didn't think he was being cynical, just realistic. When it was announced that the funeral would be held in Atlanta on April 9th, President Johnson, that lame white duck, decreed that the opening day of baseball season would be postponed from the 8th to the 10th, and he ordered all flags flown at half-mast. The Academy Award show was also postponed by 2 days. Willie greeted these tokens with a shrug. Though he had given up on King years ago, the details about the assassination fascinated him. For days he devoured newspapers and magazines and lived in front of his television set. He learned that the embalmers had to spend long hours working on King's corpse because the whole right side of his face was shot away, the jaw barely dangling. They had to rebuild the face with plaster. In Atlanta, the coffin was placed on a crude farm wagon that was pulled through the throngs of mourners by 2 Georgia mules. This attempt to dress the patrician King in the trappings of the common man struck Willie as calculated and deeply dishonest, downright shameful, but hardly surprising. That, after all, was what myth-makers did. Given some of the things he'd heard King say, Willie even believed the man had pursued martyrdom. Willie devoured such news not because he was shocked or even particularly dismayed by the killing, but because all the images of King had reawakened something in him, hard as he tried to forget what happened.